worked and traveled in, at this point, almost, well, as of next week, 60 countries. And I've seen lots of poverty, I've seen lots of difficulties. And when we think about issues of poverty, poor health outcomes, and lack of development, people think quite a lot about sub-Saharan Africa. It's true, I've seen it, I see it all the time. Think a lot about Southeast Asia. What people don't always think about so much is Latin America. Well, the fact is that many Latin American countries, in particular the indigenous populations in Latin American countries, have some of the poorest health outcomes in the world. Guatemala is no exception. Guatemala has a relatively large Mayan population, several million in fact, and for the most part, as my collaborator in Guatemala says, being Mayan equals being poor. The Mayans in general, about 75% of them live in poverty, almost 40% in extreme poverty. In the areas where I work, up in the highlands, and this, by the way, is Lake Atitlán, and we work at sites that are about 1,000 meters or so above the lake, only accessible by boat. You find there that children, the majority of children are 2 to 3 standard deviations below the WHO norm for growth. So in other words, they are stunted. Stunting comes from a couple of reasons. One, there is lack of food. There's quite a lot of food insecurity. Second, because of deforestation and the land losing a lot of its nutrients, the food that is available isn't as nutritious as it used to be. And third is an issue of sanitation. Right? Do you know what one of the top causes of malnutrition is among children? Obviously, you're going to say lack of food. Yeah, just as important is poor sanitation. When kids are constantly exposed to GI viruses or bacteria, right, their GI tracts are constantly inflamed. They're spending a lot of their energy fighting the infection, and even if they are getting enough food or enough calories, their bodies cannot absorb it. We're working in an area where the water is bad, and there is running water, at least to most of the villages, but it is not treated in any way. Because of open defecation and the way the feces is dealt with, the water is contaminated. So we get the cycle: undernutrition, poor sanitation, undernutrition. And guess what happens when you're stunted and you don't get enough nutrition, right? Not only do our bodies need to grow, but what else needs to grow? Our brains. So what happens then is you also get a lack of cognitive development. Right? Without cognitive development, people don't do well in schools. Because people don't do well in schools or go to school, the governments in these areas rarely will build a school that goes above 3rd grade. We fortunately have one that goes to 6th grade, but the vast majority of children don't go because either they don't have the cognitive development to be successful, or frankly, their parents need them working in the field to try and earn a living. Going to school is a luxury. Now, think about this for a second. So then what happens if people don't finish school, they don't go to the 3rd grade, they don't go to the 6th grade? How much luck do you think we have trying to get schools built to get them to the 9th grade? None, because the argument is, well, no one's going to school anyway. So all of these issues come together in an isolated community in which there's lack of education, poor nutrition, only one health center, which is where we collaborate with, and actually not enough medicines. So it's very difficult for people under those circumstances to develop themselves economically. So one of the things that we really need to do in these kinds of areas is not simply to improve health outcomes, but also to provide more development opportunities, right? That will actually allow people to find a way to survive economically. Health and economics and education all work together. Those of you who've taken my class know that I talk about this a lot, that a key determinant of health actually is economic development and education. So this is the issue that we face in these communities. And it's an issue that has many other aggravating factors or exacerbating factors. So for example, this community, I would say 70% of the adults do not know how to read and write. This creates a whole set of issues. In order to get any good jobs, you need to be able to go across the lake to some of the resort towns, right? There's a lot of wealth directly across the lake. Go to one of the resort towns where maybe you can get a job as a cook, a cleaner. However, in order to do that, you have to pay money to get across the lake. And the amount of money that people have to pay takes up a lot of, will take up a lot of the income that they have to feed their children. These are the choices that people make all the time. Lack of literacy. In these communities, we think, well, sure, Spanish-speaking country, absolutely. There are 21 Mayan languages or dialects. The majority of people in this community do not speak Spanish as a first language. Spanish is a second language. Many of them don't speak it at all or don't speak it well. In fact, in some of the elementary schools in the municipio, in the areas surrounding Santa Cruz, we work with children in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and we actually have to have what we're saying translated into cachiquel, the local language. Now, those kids are not learning Spanish. They will be lucky if they get beyond the 4th grade. They will have no opportunities outside this area, an area with dwindling resources. And on top of that, an area where several of the sources of income are slowly dwindling as well. Number one, increasingly there's drought in Guatemala, especially in these mountainous regions. And what drought means is that even the crops that people grow that they depend on, like maize or corn, actually the production capacity is not as high as it used to be. People frequently depended on coffee, right? Working on coffee plantations. However, there is a fungus called Desarrolla that is devastating the coffee production in Guatemala, 40–50% lower than the norm. Communities are going to starve. And one way that we can actually, that many of the communities can try to get more funds is that the young men, the sons, can be sent off to work on weekdays at least in the sugarcane plantations. But now, for reasons that we don't understand, in Guatemala, in Honduras, in Panama, in Nicaragua, and also going across the water in Sri Lanka, the men who are working in these sugarcane plantations are developing chronic and frequently fatal kidney disease. And we don't know why. And of course, the moment that they develop kidney disease, guess what the sugarcane plantation owners do? Adios. They go back to their communities where they're then burdens on their family. So I'm telling you all this to give you just a snapshot of the kinds of challenges that we face. And I know you see many of the photographs here, and you see this is an area of extreme beauty. Many people, tourists, go to the lake, they stay around the lake, they see how beautiful it is, but just as the lake is murky and they can't see below the surface, people are not seeing below the surface the way that the Mayans in this area exist and try to live. At Mayan Medical Aid, our clinic is, we have a license and a contract from the government to provide basically all of the health care in the region. Serve several thousand people in the area. People come, they do not have to pay, and we provide the medicines as best we can. There is a puesto de salud, a regular health center, but it has nothing. It's absolutely nothing. They're downstairs, we're upstairs. Everyone comes to us, right? We sometimes, even if we have to get someone to a hospital, we frequently give money out of our own pockets because we can't have this happen. I have seen so many times parents having to make the choice between taking their baby to the hospital where it might die, and if the baby dies, you need to pay a fee to speed up the paperwork to get the baby out, or decide that that money is going to be used to feed the other children. And under those circumstances, frequently the babies die. So I'm just giving you, this is the kind of life choices that people make. There's a long history of this in Guatemala. In the last couple of decades in particular, Guatemalans, Latinos, non-Mayan Guatemalans, Latinos, and Gabriella's generation in particular, have really looked at this hard and trying to find ways to overcome these challenges. And that's actually what we're asking you to do, to work with us to find ways